What would you do if your own brother tried to steal everything you built? When my phone lit up with a message from Kevin, I thought it would be something routine, maybe a question about quarterly numbers or a client update. Instead, it said 6 words that cracked my entire world open. Expect a call from our lawyer. My stomach dropped. My breath caught in my throat. The lawyer. Why? My mind raced, connecting half-formed thoughts like sparks on frayed wires. Was this a mistake? Some misunderstanding? But deep down, I already knew. I could feel it. I stared at the screen. My thumb hovered above the keyboard for what felt like minutes, even though it was seconds. I finally typed a single word, understood. I didn't call him. I didn't ask questions. I didn't panic. Because in that moment, clarity cut through the fog I'd been living in for months. I realized I'd been gaslit, undermined, and quietly pushed aside by the very people I trusted most. And now they thought they had me cornered. They had no idea what I was about to do. But let me take you back to the beginning of this storm I never saw coming. And if you've ever felt betrayed by family, I hope my story makes you feel a little less alone. Comment where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button if you're ready for some sweet justice. I'm Melanie Mitchell. I'm 34 years old, and for the last 10 years, I poured every ounce of my soul into building Innovate Tech, a startup I launched from a folding table in my parents' garage. With an engineering degree, $5,000 in savings, and a secondhand laptop, I had nothing but a dream. I'd graduated straight into a recession. 63 rejected job applications. Later, I realized no one was going to give me a shot, so I made my own. I slept on a camping mat beside my desk, showered at the gym to save time, lived on ramen noodles and canned beans. I coded until my fingers ached and my eyes blurred. My dreams were written in lines of JavaScript. Those early days were a fog of survival. My parents would peek into the garage, worry etched into their faces. Maybe it's time to look for a real job, my mom would say gently. I'd force a smile. I'm close. I can feel it. And sometimes I actually believe myself. My first breakthrough came when I launched a simple software platform to help small businesses manage inventory. It was affordable, intuitive, and reliable, designed for the mom and pop shops overlooked by the big players charging thousands. When 10 customers signed up, I cried. Then I bought myself a burger to celebrate my first non-instant meal in months. That little win grew fast. I hired Jesse, a brilliant programmer I met at a tech meetup. Then Dana, a warm-hearted customer service lead who connected with users in ways I never could. We moved into our first real office, a tiny space above a pizza place that smelled like grease and dreams. But it was ours. I still remember the day we got our first 1,000 users. I didn't cry. I just sat in that office and stared at our login dashboard, the numbers ticking up, thinking I did this. I actually did this. But growth brought complexity. I couldn't do it alone anymore. And that's when I made the decision that would eventually break me. I brought in my family. Kevin, my younger brother, had a finance degree and a slick way with numbers. Amanda, my sister, was sharp with branding and social media. Ryan, our cousin, had been in sales for years and knew how to talk anyone into anything. I gave them generous equity, 10% each, and kept 51% for myself. You've changed our lives, Kevin said, hugging me after signing his contract. Amanda smiled. We're building a family legacy. Those words felt like a warm promise back then. They'd haunt me later. Over the next few years, we soared. We expanded our software into full suites tailored for industries from food trucks to retail. Our client base exploded. $1 million turned into $5 million, then $10 million. We moved into a 3-floor downtown office with glass walls and our logo shining proudly over the street. But while the numbers climbed, so did the cracks beneath the surface. I worked harder than ever. I was always the first in, last out. My life outside of Innovate Tech had basically evaporated. Missed weddings, forgotten birthdays, relationships that faded away because I was always launching something. My world was Innovate Tech. Then came Brian. He wasn't from tech, thank God. He was kind, steady, patient. Build your empire, he'd tell me. I'll be here. He understood what I didn't see, that while I was coding and building and chasing every new milestone, my family was waiting for the right moment to take it all. At first it was small things. Kevin questioning how I structured my department. Amanda mentioning clients thought I was intense. Ryan casually suggesting maybe I wasn't the best person to lead expansion strategy. Maybe just stick to product dev, Kevin said one day in a leadership meeting. Let us handle the business side. I smiled, brushed it off. They were family, and family doesn't betray you. Right. But the real fracture, the one that couldn't be unseen, came during a dinner with Trier Solutions, a national client on the verge of signing a 7-figure contract. I'd worked months on that pitch. They arrived late. Kevin, Amanda, and Ryan laughing when they walked in like they'd already sealed something. I led the presentation, laying out strategy, roadmaps, back-end, scalability. But every time I spoke, Kevin interrupted. What Melanie means is... While my sister handles the tech side, our executive team has taken a more comprehensive approach. My own brother rebranded me as the coder in the corner at my company at my pitch with my clients. When the Trior CEO asked about our 5-year vision, Kevin answered without even glancing my way. The small business market got us started, but we've outgrown that. We're moving toward enterprise. Outgrown my vision. Outgrown the clients I fought for. I nearly choked. On the ride back to the office, I asked Kevin what he meant. It's just business talk. He shrugged. Amanda added, we didn't want to bother you with every little thing. Every little thing. Like changing the entire company's direction. I sat in my office that night, heart pounding, eyes burning. I walked toward the break room for coffee, trying to clear my thoughts, and that's when I heard Amanda's voice, in the conference room, the door slightly ajar. She's brilliant with product, Amanda was saying, but she's becoming a liability. She's too attached to the original vision, Ryan added. We need someone more flexible at the helm. Then Kevin's voice. The board's concerned, too. I froze in the hallway. My blood turned to ice. They weren't just whispering doubts, they were planning my removal, and I was about to learn just how far they'd go. But the real shock was still to come. The hallway outside that conference room felt colder than any winter I'd ever known. Their voices, Kevin, Amanda, Ryan, spilled out casually, like they weren't plotting to gut the company's soul. Like I hadn't spent a decade bleeding for Innovate Tech. The board's concerned. She's too emotional. We need a more experienced CEO. I didn't burst in. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I turned and walked out of the office, calm on the outside, a war zone inside. Because if they were going to play chess behind my back, then I'd show them who taught the board how to move. Funny thing is, I should have seen it coming. Looking back now, there were warning signs, not just in the company, but from the very beginning. Kevin had always been the golden boy in our family. When I got a full-ride scholarship, my parents said, "We're proud of you." When Kevin scored a B- in econ, they threw him a pizza party. I remember being 12, winning the district science fair with a homemade humidity sensor built from scrap parts. Kevin got second place in a regional swim meet the same week. At dinner that night, Mom asked me to give him a round of applause for working so hard in the pool. Nobody mentioned my trophy sitting on the kitchen counter. That's not bitterness speaking, it's pattern recognition. Kevin was used to being celebrated for showing up. So when I made room for him in a company already flying high, he saw it as his right, not a gift. When I offered him 10% equity and the CFO position, he didn't even blink. Amanda got the same deal for marketing and Ryan charming. Ryan was handed a title he'd never have earned in any other company. I thought I was building a legacy, something meaningful with the people I loved. Instead, I was arming my own executioners. But in the beginning, everything looked perfect. Revenue exploded. We outgrew our office above the pizza place and moved into a 3-floor complex downtown, the kind with floor-to-ceiling glass, brushed concrete floors, and espresso machines no one knew how to operate. We had interns, executive assistants, catered Friday lunches, and the front desk started answering the phone. "Thank you for calling Innovate Tech. How can we help you?" I should have felt proud. But I felt tired, Every milestone came with longer hours. New clients meant new features, more late nights, more fires to put out. I kept pushing. "You need to pace yourself," Brian would say, rubbing my shoulders while I answered emails at midnight. But I couldn't stop. Not when we were so close to something. I just didn't know what. I wanted to believe my family had my back. That maybe we'd built something rare, a company powered by blood and trust. But then came the quiet moves. The meeting invites that arrived 5 minutes before they started, or not at all. The product strategies shifted, rebranded by Amanda as collaborative decisions. Ryan started attending calls I used to lead, answering questions about features he'd never touched. When I pushed back just a little, I was told, "We already ran the numbers," or "You've been so busy we didn't want to bother you." My input wasn't welcome anymore. It was being phased out. Still, I kept trying. I praised Kevin's strategic pivots in board meetings even though the ideas were mine. I let Amanda present at conferences even when I'd built the pitch deck myself. I approved Ryan's client expansion proposals without my usual scrutiny just to prove I trusted them. I thought maybe if I gave them more space, more credit, more power, they'd stop treating me like a burden. I didn't realize the knife was already halfway in. The final test came during a San Francisco conference. I'd booked a packed 3-day schedule, keynotes, investor meetings, product demos. But on day 2, I felt a migraine building behind my eyes so violently it was like my brain was being squeezed in a vice. I bailed, took an early flight home. No one knew. I didn't even tell Brian, just wanted to sleep in my own bed. Instead, I walked into the building around 8 p.m. expecting the lights to be off the air quiet. But the conference room was glowing, and the parking lot still had 3 cars in it, Kevin's, Amanda's, Ryan's. I entered silently through the side door, keycard in hand, and what I heard changed everything. Kevin's voice. "The documentation is solid. We've recorded every instance where her decisions have cost us money or opportunities." Ryan. "Our attorney found a clause in the original incorporation documents if the majority of the board determines the CEO is acting against company interests, they can authorize a new share issuance." Amanda. "She's too attached to the original clients. She still thinks like a small business developer. We need someone who sees the big picture." Then the voice of Bernard West, one of our board members. "She still owns 51%. We can't just remove her without cause." Ryan again, "That's where this clause comes in." And a fourth voice, female firm professional, one I didn't recognize at first, Patricia, their attorney. "We have several approaches. Share dilution based on fiduciary concerns. We've also identified documentation of meetings she missed, decisions that led to opportunity loss." My body went numb. 10 years of sacrifice turned into a file folder of evidence, a smear campaign disguised as a legal maneuver. They weren't just stealing my title, they were trying to rewrite history. I backed out silently, drove home in a daze. When I walked through the front door, Brian took one look at me and asked, "Who dyed my company?" I whispered, collapsing onto the couch. I told him everything, the whispers, the gaslighting, the secret meetings, the betrayal. "They can't do this," he said, furious. "You own the company, not if they dilute my shares." He paced. "You've got to fight." I nodded, hollow inside. "I will." But the truth is, part of me had already made a decision. I was done begging for my seat at a table I built. If they wanted to play dirty, I'd play smart, and they'd never see me coming. The next morning, I wasn't crying. I wasn't screaming. I was scanning legal documents with Rachel Solomon. She'd been my personal attorney since Innovate Tech was little more than a garage project and a coffee-stained vision board. She helped me incorporate the company, negotiate our first contracts, and navigate the early funding rounds. I trusted her more than anyone. Now she was leaning across my kitchen table at 8 a.m., skimming bylaws and board protocols, her brow furrowed in quiet fury. "They're bluffing on most of this," she muttered. "That share dilution clause, it's buried deep and written vaguely, almost impossible to enforce against a founder, especially one with 51% control. But," she trailed off, But if they move fast, orchestrate the board file, the paperwork just right, they might try. And if you're not ready, Melanie, it could get messy. Messy, I can handle. I said, steel in my voice. Losing everything, I can't. That's when the real work began. For the next 72 hours, I documented everything. Every missed meeting invite. Every last-minute oops, forgot to loop you in. Every instance where my decisions were overridden without board approval. Rachel built a counterfile, a paper trail, proving how my leadership was being intentionally undermined. I even handed her a copy of the voice memo I'd recorded the night I overheard their secret meeting. This, she said, listening with headphones. This could bury them if it ever hits a courtroom, but I didn't want a courtroom. I wanted out, on my terms. And the plan forming in my mind would not only save my dignity, it would strip theirs clean. Still, even with a strategy taking shape, the day-to-day at Innovate Tech had become a nightmare. The gaslighting grew bolder. Emails were accidentally left off threads. Product strategies changed without my input. Board members I'd once had lunch with weekly now canceled meetings or didn't respond at all. When I asked about a new executive hire I hadn't approved, Kevin shrugged and said, "We all agreed it was best. You must have missed the memo." I stared at him across the boardroom table. His tone, calm, composed, practiced. "You mean the memo you sent at 11:47 p.m. for a 9 a.m. vote?" He smiled. "It was short notice, sure, but legally acceptable. You were copied." He wasn't just gaslighting me. He was weaponizing the bylaws I'd helped write. My physical health tanked. 15 pounds gone in 2 months. My hair started thinning. I developed a twitch in my left eye that wouldn't stop no matter how much sleep I got. Except I wasn't getting any sleep. Brian did his best. He made me meals I never ate, booked weekend getaways I always canceled, held me when I cried at 3 a.m., whispering, "You're not crazy. They're the ones who are wrong." But nothing soothed the bone-deep ache of betrayal, not until I stopped reacting and started responding. I gave Kevin more visibility in financial meetings. Amanda got lead billing on our newest marketing campaign. Ryan was quoted in our newsletter as the visionary behind our expansion strategy. Each move earned me a smile, a nod, a little less suspicion. They thought I was backing down. What I was really doing was buying time. Then came the Trior deal fallout. Despite my best efforts, we lost the contract. Trior's CEO sent me a 2-sentence email. "Thank you for your time. We've decided to move in a different direction." I wasn't shocked. I'd been humiliated in that meeting, undermined, dismissed, but Kevin blamed me anyway. "I told you we needed to pitch enterprise-level support," he said, arms crossed. "We weren't ready," I snapped. "Our infrastructure isn't built for that scale yet." He smiled smug. "That's your opinion." I clenched my fists beneath the table. Opinion I'd written the back-end architecture from scratch. I was the infrastructure. And now I was being erased. The next board meeting confirmed my fears. Kevin presented a 5-year roadmap built entirely around enterprise clients. "Small business got us here," he said, nodding toward me with a patronizing smile. "But it's time to scale." He spoke like a TED Talk reject buzzwords without substance. I waited for Amanda or Ryan to speak up, to acknowledge that this was my company, my vision. They didn't. They nodded, rubber stamped, moved on. I didn't say a word during that meeting, because what I had to say I was saving for later. The night before I signed the papers with Jonathan Grant, the CEO of our top competitor, I sat in the dark with Rachel and Brian. Rachel laid it out one more time. "They won't see this coming. You'll sell the 51% before they file any dilution vote. It'll be done. Legal. Final." Brian poured me tea and didn't say anything for a long time. Then softly, "You're sure this is what you want?" I thought about it. About all the birthdays I'd missed. The sacrifices I'd made. The respect I thought I'd earned. And the brother who was trying to take it all. "I'm sure." He nodded. "Then let's burn the blueprint," he said, "and build something new." At 11:58 a.m. the next day, I sold my majority stake in Innovate Tech to Tech Innovate for $75 million. By 2 p.m., the press release went live, and 3 minutes later, Kevin called, Amanda called, Ryan called. I didn't answer, because there was nothing left to say, but they weren't done yet, and neither was I. Kevin's name lit up my phone screen again, then Amanda, then Ryan. 38 missed calls, 27 voicemails, 52 text messages, all in the span of 2 hours. It was almost poetic. They'd spent months crafting a secret plan to take everything from me, and in a single day, with a quiet handshake and a signed contract, I made it all disappear. But this wasn't about revenge. It was about survival. About finally choosing myself over a family that had used my loyalty like a credit line, borrowing against it until they ran me dry. After signing the deal with Tech Innovate, I didn't go home. I didn't return to the office either. I checked into a small boutique hotel downtown, the kind with blackout curtains and 24-hour room service. I lay in bed and listened to Kevin's first voicemail. "What the hell, Melanie? You sold your shares without telling us. Call me back immediately." Then Amanda, Mel, I just saw the press release. Please tell me this isn't real. We're family. We can fix this. Then Ryan, Melanie. Whatever this is, let's be reasonable. Let's talk before it goes any further. The tone shift over the next 12 hours was predictable. Shock turned to panic. Panic turned to pleading. Pleading turned to threats. By nightfall, I was numb to it all, until I got the email from Jonathan Grant transition proceeding as planned. Your family members have been informed of the organizational changes. As expected, they're not taking it well. Let me know if you need anything. Jonathan, they were out. Removed from their positions. Severance issued. Office access revoked. For the first time in 10 years, I could breathe. At 9:17 p.m., the hotel front desk called. "Miss Mitchell, your brother and sister are here. They're asking to speak with you urgently." My stomach twisted. "Please inform them I'm unavailable," I said. "And if they refuse to leave, call the police." "Understood, ma'am." Click. I imagined the scene: Kevin red-faced and furious, Amanda teary and desperate, Ryan pacing like a caged wolf, all of them wondering how I beat them to it. Because in their minds, I was still the quiet one, the fixer, the peacemaker, the sister who always gave in. But I hadn't always been this way. There was a time I thought my value depended on being useful, agreeable, a good daughter, a reliable sister. That mindset is what let me build Innovate Tech, because I gave everything: time, energy, heart. But it's also what made me vulnerable to people who only saw that generosity as an opening. I remembered something Rachel had told me during one of our planning sessions. You don't owe loyalty to people who are gambling with your life like it's poker night. She said it with fire in her eyes, the kind that reminded me of my mom. My mother had passed when I was in my early 20s, just as Innovate Tech was finding its legs. She'd been a quiet force of reason, always urging me to lead, not follow. I wondered what she'd think now. Would she be proud of the way I protected myself, or devastated at what my siblings had become? The next morning, my inbox was filled with news alerts. Tech Innovate acquires. Majority stake in Innovate Tech founder Melanie Mitchell. Exits in surprise move. Executives ousted amidst quiet corporate shakeup. There was even a Reddit thread speculating that I'd been forced out after a hostile board vote. I almost laughed. I'd beaten the board to the punch. I was the one holding the detonator. One text from Kevin had lit the fuse. But I was the one who'd chosen where the bomb landed. I didn't respond to a single message for 3 days. But I did answer one email. It was from Jesse, our CTO, the guy I'd hired back when it was just me, a pizza box of cold fries and a dream. "Hey, Mel, I get it now. We all saw it coming, even if we didn't say it. No judgment. Just coffee soon." I didn't reply right away. Not because I was angry, but because I didn't know how to explain the kind of pain that comes from losing your family by saving yourself. Then on day 4, I sent a text to the one group chat I swore I'd never open again. Kevin, Amanda, Ryan, Riverside Cafe, tomorrow, 2 p.m., come alone. This is not negotiable. No follow-up. No please. Just clarity. The cafe was neutral ground. I arrived early, sat in the far corner, and asked the barista not to seat anyone nearby. One of Jonathan's security contractors sat at the bar dressed like a tourist, just in case. Kevin arrived first, disheveled, dark circles under his eyes, no tie unheard of for him. Amanda came in second. Her makeup was messy. She looked like she hadn't slept. Ryan trailed behind. No charm left in his face, just quiet fury. They all sat down. No one spoke at first. I let the silence stretch, let them feel the discomfort of it. Then I leaned forward and said, "Tell me why." Kevin flinched. "Why what? Why did you plan to remove me from my own company? Why did you think you could take everything and I'd just roll over?" Amanda's lip trembled. "You misunderstood Mel." I pulled out my phone, hit play. Their voices filled the cafe clear and cold from the recording I'd made outside the conference room. Kevin. She's lost her vision. The company has outgrown her. Amanda. She's too emotional in meetings. Clients are uncomfortable. Ryan. The clause lets us dilute her shares. Once the board votes, it's done. I pressed pause. No one said a word. I looked at them, one by one. You thought I'd never hear that I said. You thought I was too tired, too distracted to notice the knife you were sharpening. Ryan cleared his throat. You ambushed us, Mel. Sold to our rival, I protected myself, I snapped. While you built a case to destroy me. Amanda wiped a tear. We didn't mean to hurt you. But you did, I said. You didn't just hurt me. You broke something that can't be put back together. Kevin leaned in, angry now. You destroyed our family for money. Was it worth it? I stared at him, calm, even. I didn't destroy anything, Kevin. You did the second you valued control over trust. I stood up. This is the last time we'll speak. Amanda started to sob. Ryan looked away. Kevin clenched his jaw. I pulled a folder from my purse. Inside are your severance packages, 6 months' salary, health benefits, glowing references. Kevin looked stunned. You're giving us that after what we did? Yes, I said. Because I'm not like you. And then I turned and walked out into the sunlight, feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Free. But the story wasn't over yet. Because now, it was time to rebuild. I didn't cry after that final meeting. Not once. Because walking out of that cafe, I wasn't mourning a loss, I was shedding dead weight. Everything they had tried to sabotage, I had already protected. My shares reassigned. My IP secured under a separate entity weeks before their ambush. My future signed, sealed, and backed by a team of people who actually believed in me. But there was one more surprise they didn't see coming. And it wasn't about the business. It was about me. 2 weeks later, I boarded a flight to Vancouver. Rachel had offered me a place at her guest house overlooking the water. You need a clean slate, she'd said, and this place has no room for traders or conference rooms. I laughed harder at that than I had in months. I landed just after sunset. The air was cool, salt-sweet and clean. The house was quiet, with warm light spilling from tall windows. Rachel greeted me with 2 mugs of tea, no questions asked, and I just let go. For the first time, I slept without clutching my phone, without fear of a board vote, without planning 1,000 backup strategies in my head before sunrise. In the days that followed, I built something small, personal. It wasn't a tech platform. It wasn't a pitch deck. It was a community. I called it Phoenix Foundry, a digital and physical space where women in leadership could connect, share resources, heal from betrayal, and rebuild. The irony didn't escape me. Kevin had said I'd become too emotional for clients, and now my entire mission was about creating space for emotions as strategy, not in spite of it. I started small, 5 women, most of them quietly pushed out of their own companies too. They didn't want pity. They wanted a reset, tools, tactics, validation. I gave them everything I had learned, and in doing so, I found myself again. The press caught wind of it when one of our members publicly credited Phoenix Foundry for helping her negotiate a 7-figure return-to-work offer on her terms. Suddenly, I was getting emails from Forbes Fast Company women I'd never met, even ex-board members from Innovate Tech who wanted to catch up over lunch. Please. Where were they when Kevin tried to cut me off at the knees? Where were they when Amanda said I was too tired to lead? One night, sitting by the fire pit outside Rachel's house, I got a ping from LinkedIn. A message from Caroline Alvarez, the founder of Synthesis AI, the very company Kevin used to call our laughable competitor. Hi, Melanie. I've been following your work with Phoenix Foundry. We're building something adjacent. If you're ever open to a joint venture or strategic advisory role, I'd love to connect. I stared at the screen, then smiled. Kevin had mocked Caroline's company back when it was just a bootstrapped startup, called her delusional. I had met her only once at a panel where we were both underestimated and ignored in favor of 3 loud male CEOs. Now she was scaling globally, and she wanted me to join forces. So I did, quietly. No press release, no tweet storm, just a signed contract and a mutual understanding. We build in silence. We scale with force. The money secondary. The impact immense. Together, we launched an accelerator for underrepresented founders, and the first round oversubscribed in 3 days. One of our seed recipients had this to say in her pitch video: "My parents told me I wasn't tough enough to run a company. Phoenix taught me resilience isn't about being tough. It's about knowing when to walk away and when to rise." That line stayed with me. Because if anyone had told me 5 months ago that walking away from Innovate Tech would lead me here, I'd have laughed in their face. But here I was, alive, reclaimed, and rebuilding on my terms. Then one morning I got a package in the mail, no return address. Inside a photograph. Me, Amanda, Kevin, and Ryan, standing together in front of the Innovate Tech logo, smiling. Taped to the back was a note. 2 words in Kevin's handwriting. Was it worth it? I held the photo in my hands for a long time. Then I took a pen and wrote underneath his message, "Yes, every second." I burned the photo in the fire pit, and I let go for real this time. But fate wasn't quite done with us, because just as I thought the past had fully released its grip on me, an invitation arrived. The envelope was ivory, embossed, elegant, which immediately made me suspicious. I opened it over my kitchen counter, half expecting it to be another empty apology from someone who had ghosted me during the fallout. Instead, it was an invitation. The Founders Legacy Gala celebrating 10 years of innovation and impact in tech. At the bottom, in gold foil lettering, Kevin Dalton Chair, Amanda Liu co-host, and then my name, honoring Melanie Chase, visionary leader and co-founder of Innovate Tech. I stared at it for a full minute. Honoring me. After everything, I nearly tossed it in the trash. But Rachel, ever the strategist, had other plans. "You should go," she said. "Not for them. For you." I shook my head. "It's a PR stunt, a photo op. They want me to show up so they can pretend we're all fine." Rachel smiled. "Then don't pretend. Show up. Be exactly who you are now. Let the contrast speak louder than any speech ever could." I didn't respond right away, but something in me shifted. For the first time, the idea of facing them didn't feel like pain. It felt like power. The night of the gala, I wore a black satin suit, tailored sharp, unmistakably mine. I didn't bring Brian, didn't need a +1. I wanted them to see I'd come alone, because I didn't need them to stand tall anymore. The room buzzed with VC elites, founders, journalists, and tech influencers, all sipping cocktails and posing beside a massive Innovate Tech banner. I walked in just as the MC was announcing, "Please welcome our honored guests and co-founders." Heads turned. Amanda froze mid-laugh. Ryan's smile faltered. And Kevin's jaw visibly clenched. I gave him a nod. Calm, civil, unshaken. Then I walked straight past them, took my seat, and watched them fumble through their speeches. Amanda tried to sound heartfelt. Melanie taught me everything I know, she said, blinking too often. Kevin mumbled something about visionary foundations and strong female leadership. I didn't flinch, didn't applaud, didn't blink. Finally, they announced a surprise segment, As we celebrate a decade of impact, we're thrilled to unveil our new program, the Chase Fellowship, named in honor of Melanie Chase for women-led tech ventures. Wait, what? Even I didn't see that coming. The audience turned to me, applauding. I stood slowly, unsure if it was admiration or guilt that had driven them to do it. Kevin approached with a plaque. "Melanie," he said, eyes unreadable. "We wanted to thank you." I took the plaque, looked him in the eye, and said loud enough for the mic to catch it. "You could have had me as a partner, but you chose an enemy. Congratulations, you built a fellowship in my name, and I built a legacy without yours." Then I turned and walked off stage. I didn't stay for dinner. I didn't need to. Outside, I slipped into the car waiting at the curb, powered by an EV company Phoenix Foundry had just invested in. As we drove off, my phone buzzed with messages, journalists asking for statements, young founders saying I'd inspired them. One message stood out. From Caroline Alvarez, saw the broadcast. "You walked in like a queen. Call me when you're ready, we're scaling." I texted back, "Ready now." I never saw Kevin again. Amanda tried to connect once, sent a long email about regret and pressure from the board. I archived it without reading. Because the truth, I didn't need closure from them. My closure came the moment I realized I didn't have to keep fighting to belong. I'd built my own world, and in that world, I wasn't just accepted, I was respected. So to Kevin, Amanda, Ryan, if you're still wondering, was it worth it? Let me answer one last time. Yes, because I didn't lose my company. I reclaimed my voice, and now I help others do the same, one rising phoenix at a time.